Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. The movie I want to talk about today is part of my ongoing series of Luis Bunuel films. I think this will be my 13th video. I should have, I think, 14 more videos to go. So today I'm going to talk about Tristana. This is from 1970. It stars Catherine Deneuve, Fernando and Franco Nero, and it is based on a novel by Benito Perez Galdós of a similar title. And I'll be talking about some of the differences between Bunuel's version and Galdós' version later on in this video. And as I'm going through Bunuel's filmography, and I'm only scratching the surface of that filmography, but I'm struck more and more, and especially with Tristana, with Bunuel's idea of destiny, of where we end up in our lives. Where does Tristana end up in her lives? What is her destiny? And Tristana is significant. One of her significant traits is she's sort of an either-or kind of character. So early on, we see her walking with her guardian, Don Lope, played by Fernando, and they're in a courtyard of a number of columns, and she says to Don Lope, "Which column do you prefer, that one or this one?" And Don Lope is puzzled by this, but Tristana gives us some thought, and she says, "This is the column I prefer." When she's eating her meal once, she takes 2 peas out of her meal, puts them on the table, trying to decide which pea does she prefer. And in more important to the narrative, Tristana, this is Catherine Deneuve, she's taking her daily walk with Don Lope's housekeeper, Saturna, and they come to a fork in the road, and Tristana says, which road should we take, Saturna? And Tristana says, "It doesn't matter to me." And then Tristana takes the road to the right. As soon as she does, Saturna says, "I think we better go that other road." Well, the road that Tristana chooses brings her to a courtyard where there's an artist, a painter, painting some tableau. They strike up an acquaintance, and this becomes Tristana's great love affair with this artist. So there is an element of coincidence in all of Bunuel's films. He emphasizes that he believes in coincidence in life and how it determines some of many of the important events in our life. But also he emphasizes psychology, behavior. Behavior is the great mystery. It's the great surrealistic mystery in his films. So even we get some moments of visual surrealism in Tristana, but overall it is her behavior, the mystery of her psychology. Bunuel is very much interested in psychology as a way of how that can sometimes even manifest in what we see are coincidences. We view, oh, if I had taken that other road, I wouldn't have had this love affair. So the story goes that it centers in the beginning on Don Lope, played by Fernando, and he is what Bunuel would call a señorito. He is a man of independent means. Bunuel grew up in preparation for himself to be a señorito. And Don Lope has a very, in that he's an independent means, he doesn't work, he disdains work. He thinks work is the bane. How can you live a life when you have to spend so much of your time working? He does have a sense of honor. He's generous with his money. In fact, his fortune dwindles away because he has helped Tristana's father, who has committed a crime and has gone to jail, and he supported. He gave Tristana's father money to try to pay off his debt, and also he supported his wife and Tristana as well after her father dies, and then her mother dies. So Tristana is I guess, sort of a late teenager, and Don Lope feels that this is his obligation to his best friend to take care of Tristana, who now becomes his ward. He becomes her guardian. But as a part of Don Lope's view of his honor, there is no honor when sex is involved. That is his privilege. He doesn't worry about wives or who he might harm. His libido is paramount to his life, and so it doesn't take long before Don Lope does in fact seduce Tristana, and she becomes basically part of his a common law wife. In fact, Don Lope even refers to himself as, "I'm your father, and I'm also your husband." And of course, Tristana blows hot and cold with Don Lope. Basically, she can't stand him, but she does give herself and continues to do so, even though she hates him. But she does recognize his good side, but and sometimes she's even affectionate towards him. Let's talk a little bit about Galdos's novel, because it's very illustrative of how Bunuel views life versus Galdos, who was one of his favorite authors. When Bunuel died, his library was just full of Galdos's works, and Galdos was a prolific writer. The events are pretty much the same. Some of the dialogue, a good bit of the dialogue of the film comes right out of the novel, but the whole conception of Tristana is different. In the novel, Tristana is very romantic. So when she meets this artist, and then he has to leave her, they have an affair. He has to leave her for a couple of months to go and tend to his seriously ill aunt. And during that period of time, Tristana writes him daily letters, and the novel becomes sort of epistolatory for a while, where we read her letters, and they become more and more romantic, florid, and in its expression of love. We're sort of entering the world of the sorrows of young Werther here. And it alarms her lover, and because these letters become increasingly self-hinged. None of this is in Bunuel's version. Viridiana, or Tristana, is very much a well-rounded person. She is not a romantic. She looks at everything. She does feel love. She feels love for the artist. Sometimes she doesn't. In the same way in her relationship to Don Lope. Saturno, the housekeeper, has a son who is deaf. Now, in the novel, he's basically a part of it. He becomes a crucial part of Bunuel's film. He is totally in love with Tristana. He is a sort of ugly child. He constantly misbehaves, and there's even a scene where, and Tristana sort of plays that up. She's satisfied with this kind of adoration. So there's a good mix of masochism, sadism. What else would you expect from a Bunuel movie? So in the book, Tristana is a victim, and you could view the film as contemporary audiences would probably do with anybody who is a victim. It would be a story of victimization, but I don't think Tristana in the movie views herself as a problem of victimization. She is, to a great degree, in charge of her own life. And you have to talk about Catherine Deneuve here, because Catherine Deneuve is so startling, astonishingly beautiful. She's both angel and devil. Well, maybe not devil, but she is devilish, and maybe in the final scenes you might see her as a devil. She's just absolutely so enchantingly beautiful, and Bunuel tries to play that down. He gives her sort of drab clothing, hats. Her hair is never down. She's a brunette here, but that doesn't distract from her beauty. He can never really escape Bunuel from Deneuve's beauty, and he complains about that later. He later said that she gave a terrific performance, but that face, because Bunuel's not interested in beauty. This is a film like Bunuel's style at this point, and really all through his filmography. He's not interested in the pictorial, where this film is set in Toledo, in Spain. This is a film made in Spain when Franco was still there. Bunuel had gotten a reprieve from the Catholic Church. His previous movie, The Milky Way, was praised by the Catholic Church, much to Bunuel's embarrassment. Is he just like Don Lope in the film, and there's a lot of Bunuel in Don Lope in this film. They are anti-church, anti-clerical, but now it's safe for him to make a film in Spain again. But we see Toledo, we see the streets, walking on the streets, we see Don Lope walking on the streets, we see Tristana walking down alleyways, but we never get a sense of what Toledo is like. The focus is always on the characters. That's who Bunuel is interested in. And when it deviates, we do get some element in the church when we go up and see the bells. And this is a very significant moment in the film because Tristana has a recurring nightmare where the gong is, in her nightmare, the gong is Don Lope's face. And this relates to Bunuel, who had a lifelong nightmare in which his face was the gong and a bell. But overall, the focus is always on the characters. There's no expressionistic lighting at all. It's all flat. There's sort of a sepia tone to this bit, which put me off a little bit in the beginning. But in the end, it's really beautiful because the story, the characters. Bunuel is sort of like a scientist who is investigating his characters. And there's a sort of an inexorable flow of scenes and events that lead up to what I mentioned in the beginning, these characters' destiny and the mystery of that destiny. So the reception was great. Bunuel was at the height of his popularity. A couple of years before was Belle de Jour with Catherine Deneuve, a big hit for him. In the meantime, in between was The Milky Way. So Vincent Canby in the New York Times gave it a rave. Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars. Andrew Saris in The Village Voice was never a big Bunuel fan, never part of his auteurist universe of directors. Nevertheless, says in his review that Bunuel may well be the great director of the previous 10 years, as Bunuel had reached a point, an unusual point in his career that he was most popular. He was churning out his most both popular and very rich films at the end of his life, which is always and I think that's right. I think Bunuel has the last act of Bunuel's career is probably the greatest of any of the film directors that came out of the 20s and 30s, the great classic film directors. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.